Hi, and welcome to How'd You Do That? Today I have a very special guest by the name of JT Kostman. JT is the CEO of Protectedby.AI. He is a data scientist, mathematician, holds a Ph.D. in psychology, and a big believer in helping others. Welcome, JT. Thank you for being on our show today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Wonderful. So tell us more about yourself and what you do in your line of work.
Oh boy. Well, it's Dr. JT Kostman. I am, as you say, I'm a data scientist, a mathematician, and also a psychologist. My first PhD is in psychology, and then I did a lot of work and postdoctoral work in mathematics. Been working in and around computers for a very, very, very long time. And so now I sort of bring those worlds together with my past life professionally. And I don't mean that in the reincarnation sense. I mean, I'm so old, I've actually had a past life. And in my younger days, at various times, I was a paramedic, a police officer, a deep sea rescue diver, and then team leader of a scout sniper recon team with the U.S. Army Special Forces. And so what I'm doing now really coalesces all those different perspectives and worlds. And at Protected by AI, we do just that. We protect people, property, places, and profits with AI-enabled solutions. And so that's the work we're doing. We work with corporations, organizations of all types. We work in the government sector. We provide cybersecurity, data security, and intelligence analysis, and bring some really cool tools from artificial intelligence, machine learning, those areas. For whatever reason, my peers, the press, professional organizations have labeled me the world's leading thinker in applied artificial intelligence and cognitive computing. And so, yeah, that's sort of the work I do.
That's amazing. And you know what? Who wouldn't want to hire somebody like yourself in your team to get the information that they need, especially in AI?
Well, I think so.
I think so too. So what led you to your current path of AI?
Oh, well, that's a good question. It actually started out very, very, very young. I joke occasionally when I'm speaking to people who are going into this profession or my colleagues and say, oh, you remember when we were, little children on the playground and thought, I want to work in artificial intelligence. That's not true. But the things that led me here, I think, started there. I've been a passionate, voracious reader since the time I'm very little. I actually, and I had mentioned to you when we spoke the last time, I started out a homeless kid living on the streets, and I spent a lot of time in the libraries. And so
Wow.
the things that I was passionate about my reading was sort of, there were a couple of writers or a couple of genres that really guided my direction. I remember distinctly the first Sherlock Holmes story I ever read, and I became, an avid fan of Sherlock Holmes. And then I remember when I first learned about Alan Turing on computable numbers and talking about Scheibing's problem and some of the work he was doing, and some mathematics and computing in those areas, and Martin Gardner, the mathematician, and then believe it or not, Sigmund Freud. And so I'm certainly not a Freudian, but that I don't know, that you could actually understand what was going on behind people's eyeballs, what they were thinking, and being able to, I don't know, effectively read minds and understand human behavior. It just became fascinating to me. And those are, sort of mutual pursuits that I've been aligning myself with for a very long time, even in those weird careers I had. Yeah, I saw that as sort of a common theme.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So then, since you were already in the beginning, you started off in a little bit of an IT, and then you worked your way into psychology. Why psychology?
Yeah, actually, my first psychology class was in junior high school, and that's when the teacher, I was going to say the professor, but I guess it wasn't the professor, because it was literally my homeroom teacher who also happened to teach a class, and he talked to us about psychology, and I'd never heard these things before, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so fascinating. And imagine if you could understand, people better. And that's actually what drew me, was that fascination in being able to, and I think we all naturally have that, right? We're
Right.
all natural psychologists.
Right.
I think it's like the one common. I talk to a lot of people. In fact, that's one of my games. When I'm on a plane, if I don't want to talk to people, I tell them I'm a mathematician, and nobody wants to talk to me. But if I tell them I'm a psychologist, oh, now everyone,
Uh-oh.
I have a friend who's crazy. Like, yeah, sure, it's your friend, but but we all, and we all have our own theories, and we all like to talk about that. And I was no different. But what really I think made me different was, when I went to grad school, by now I already had this sort of mathematical inclination,
Right.
and I wanted to understand human behavior, not just anecdotally, but empirically. I wanted to
Right.
be able to understand quantifiably,
Hmm.
individual and collective behaviors. And so that led, and the math just isn't there, frankly, in mainstream psychology. In
Hmm.
grad school, you take, regression. I mean, you take, it's kind of the pinnacle of what you do. And I
Right.
started studying a branch of mathematics, nonlinear dynamical systems theory,
Hmm.
chaos and complexity theory, those kind of things,
Right.
and working with computers, which I'd been working with for a very long time.
Hmm.
And, yeah, it just kind of intersected.
Wow, that's wonderful. So you're just a jack of all trades, right? You got
And
your
a master of none. I beat you
master of
to
AI.
it. No, well, there you go.
Wow, wonderful. We before this interview, we had a quick discussion about about your past, and you're just very driven and also wanting to help others. So, what drove you to your willingness to help others?
Yeah. You know, uh, at the risk of sort of self-analyzing, right, and falling into that trap that psychologists tend to fall into, when I look back, that does become a common theme. When I
Right.
talk about, being a paramedic and being a cop and being with special forces, it was really about, most people don't know, the motto of special forces is de oppresso liber, which is the liberation of the oppressed. So it
Right.
really is about saving people and helping people. And that's probably the common theme. I was homeless when I was 9 because I was frankly horrifically abused.
Oh,
My first
sorry.
memories are of urinating blood when I was 3 years old.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, the final event for me was after my parents lit me on fire for the second time.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm a quick learner. By the second time, I figured out, okay. And so I think I spent a good part of my career saving others. And
Wow.
that's really what ultimately led to Protected by AI. And it's funny we're talking about this now. Well, it's hysterical, but as we're talking about this now, my colleague and I, my partner Brian Gallagher, who by the way, talk about a common past. He's formerly a paramedic, and then he went on to the Secret Service and
Oh wow.
spent over a decade in the White House.
Nice.
Running stuff in nuclear, biological, chemical weapons, and then he
Wow.
took his master's in cybersecurity. So we're birds of a feather, but we just made a proposition. We're going to be doing hopefully some work with the Veterans Administration to try to address suicide. And
Oh
so can
wow.
we bring technology to bear to help save veterans' lives? It turns out in doing the research for this project, over 20 veterans a day take their own lives, a
Oh
day.
no.
And so we've decided, I spoke on a panel in
Hmm.
DC for the VA about this a couple of months ago.
Uh-huh.
And I just decided, we're just going to bring some of our resources, some of our technology to bear. And,
Hmm.
we may not be able to save all 20, but we're going to give it a heck of a try to save as
Oh
many of them
wow.
as we can. So, yeah.
Wow. That good for you. You're doing a great work and just always willing to give back. I think it's just it's not everyone can do it, right? And the fact that you do,
Well, I think everyone can.
they
And I think
can.
that's sort of the theme is we do what we can.
Right.
I'm in a unique position. I have the education, the financial resources. I can do
Hmm.
something like that.
Right.
But I don't hold a candle to like what Bill Gates can do or Warren Buffett
Right.
can do. But it's not a contest, and I tell people you shouldn't compete with me either. Everyone has an opportunity to. Can you do something? Can you
Right.
give a little bit back, or not even give back? Can you just do something, right? I mean,
Right.
if the whole purpose is just for yourself, well, what's the point
True.
of the game? You might as
Right.
well be Tom Hanks living on that island with a volleyball.
That's true.
I mean, and he even did things for Wilson, didn't he?
That's well, yeah, it's very well said, right? So tell me, I mean, you're a mathematician, you're a scientist, you're a PhD in psychology. What don't you do?
My wife says, settle down. That's what I do well. And yeah, I've had, it's been an interesting ride. I've had the great privilege and honor of having some great roles. I was formerly the chief data scientist for
Right.
Samsung. I was
Hmm.
the chief data officer and a member of the executive committee for Time Inc. And I've worked with the U.S. intelligence, defense, and security agencies for quite some time. And currently, I sit, in addition to being CEO of this company, I sit on a couple of boards.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't do well with being bored. This is really what it's about.
That's wonderful. So then what keeps you driven on a daily basis? Like what is it that drives you?
You know, um, I feel like those guys who they work in some crappy job in a warehouse or a factory, and they're working. No one works 40 hours a week, so they're actually, by the time they get done with commuting and all, they're working 50 hours a week. They come home bone tired, and yet on the weekend they'll go play softball. Uh,
Right.
I feel like a professional ball player, right? I feel like one of those people who, if I didn't get paid to do this, I would be working at the factory all week, and I do this stuff on the weekend. And so that's, to me, what drives me is I don't see this as work. I
Right.
love what I do. I find it endlessly interesting, fascinating. I have the opportunity to do great work with wonderful people.
Hmm.
Uh, what drives me, I guess, is the same thing that impels you to get out of bed in the morning.
Right.
It's, to me, this is why do fish swim? What else would I do? In fact, I've actually tried to retire 3 times, and the truth is, each time my wife has told me, "Get out of the house, you're driving me crazy," because I don't do well when I don't, have something to engage my mind.
All right. You need
I
to leave.
irritate my wife. Yeah, we've been married, we're coming up on 35 years. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and
Congratulations.
thank you. Well, it's congratulations to her for being able to put up with it. But, and she's been there since, well, obviously from the start, right? From
Right,
all of
right.
this. And, well, and to that point, that's sort of been the secret of my success is when I met my wife, I lived in an apartment. I had a mattress and I kept my clothes under the bathroom sink. And if I hadn't met her, I might have a new mattress by now, but that'd be about it. So yeah,
Oh, wow, that's
having that
funny.
person in your corner, I think that makes all the difference.
And that is important too. I mean, especially with somebody that supports you that much. That's the be all and the end all.
Yeah, there you go.
So were you looking for success when you came, after psychology and then you went into AI, you've done so
Yeah.
much. Um,
You know,
did it just come to you? Like
I, I don't
what's the
mean to be
story?
flippant, but I don't know what that means exactly. Honestly, I don't know what is success really. A good friend of mine is fond of pointing out that in your entire life, you've never seen a U-Haul trailer being pulled by a hearse. So, is success mean, oh, whoever dies with the most toys win? How stupid is that? Does it mean that, I have more money than you have, haha, or I'm higher
Right,
on the Forbes list? It's all silliness. And
right,
so
it
to me,
is.
success is just living the kind of life you want to live, living a life
Right.
that, you're happy and you can make other people happy. The rest of it is, sorry, but bullshit. It's, I mean, that said, look,
True.
I've been rich and I've been poor, and rich is better. I, you see, I own all those buildings. No, I'm kidding. uh, I, we live in nice homes. We have nice cars, and most importantly, I have great motorcycles, and I love all that. But honestly, when my wife and I came together, we didn't have much of anything, and
Right.
we could go back to it tomorrow. We could, in fact, we've talked about it. The home I'm calling you from now, actually, one of our other homes, they're all sort of rural, And we keep saying, I mean, it's just us anymore. The kids have moved out. The grandkids don't live with us. We could live in a cottage as long as there's
Right.
books and there's, good light to read by, and, we have
Right.
company. Yeah. I think we get too caught up in what in psychology we refer to it as the hedonic treadmill, right? It's
Right.
this treadmill you get on where it's sort of the goldfish thing, right? You grow to the size of your bowl,
Right.
and well, gee, the bowl's never big enough. Well, really, well, I have actually I've had the opportunity to have met most of these people we talk about. I know not well, but I've met and spent time with Buffett and Gates and Zuckerberg and Bezos, and they got a lot more money than I do. But so what? I mean, I have a
Right.
perfectly beautiful home that I'm sitting in now.
Mhm.
I have good friends. Who's going to really eat gold-plated lobster every night or
Right.
whatever it is?
Right.
I don't know what the hell they eat. I mean, I have chicken. I mean, they're going to have chicken. What are you going to feed these chickens that makes them that much more expensive? I
Oh,
don't,
wow.
there you go. I think that's really what
Right.
it comes to. And to me,
Right.
that's what success is. It's a
Right.
life well lived. It's a life that made you happy and you got to make other people happy.
Right.
So
Completely
yeah, was
agree.
I looking for that? Absolutely. But I think we all are.
Right, right. And I think our definition of happiness is so different. And we don't realize it's not the materialistic things that make you happy. It's doing the little things for the little people, like for the people that are around you, making them
Yeah.
happy.
Well, and that said, I mean, look, it's easy to say that dismissively if, you're not someone who can't pay their bills and you
Right,
don't have good health and you don't have to eat and you can't take care of your children. I'm not saying that those things aren't vitally important, but I'm
right,
saying there's a threshold, right?
right.
Once you have not just the basic needs,
Hmm.
but once you've reached that level where now, look, the kids are happy. There isn't someone who's hounding me to pay my bills.
Right.
There, I know that we're all healthy. You come to a point where you have to say, all right, and that's even for things like the bills. I mean, does anyone really need $100,000 in credit card debt? You know, when you look at that credit card statement, was it really for food? No,
Right.
it was for crap, and crap you probably is now sitting in the corner gathering dust and saying, God, why did I buy that? As I'm looking around my office right now that is full of crap that I bought over the years. Except for my books. They're
Of
vinyl,
course,
of
the
course.
books.
That's
So
right.
your wife hasn't taken out your books?
Actually, I'm a bibliophile. I can't help it. I read about 250, 300 books a year, and I
Wow.
kept all of them for a very long time. And so she had to do a purge
Oh
when we
no.
moved. Yeah, we just bought this newest house we moved to about 3 years ago, and so I
Okay.
donated almost 2,000 books.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was
Wow.
heartbreaking. That was hard for me. I got to keep all my, my lovey books, the old ones and the first
Right.
editions. And that's why everyone I know who writes a book, I tell them you have to autograph it to me because if you do, my wife can never make me give it away.
That's smart.
And I have a lot of Kindle books now. Shout out to Kindle. There you go.
She can't throw those away.
Can't throw away my Kindle books. That's right.
Oh, wonderful. So, I mean, we're all human. We make mistakes, but have you made mistakes? And if you
Oh,
did, what did you learn from them?
oh my God. What time is it? Uh, but honestly, I think that's what life is. Life is a series of mistakes. That's what it
Right.
is. Without getting off the subject, I promise to get back to it. But when we talk about things like artificial intelligence, it's one of those words people don't even know what we're talking about. Frankly, I don't know if I know what we're talking about, but one of the main components of artificial intelligence is this thing called machine learning, right?
Right.
And
Right.
in machine learning, we actually teach my machines actually learn, and they learn the same way pigeons and puppies and people learn. And how do they
Wow.
learn? They learn by making mistakes. Isn't that
Right.
interesting, right?
That's interesting that machines make mistakes.
Of course they do, right?
Never thought
That's
about that.
how they learn. And in fact, that's how all things learn. I
Right.
am fond of reminding my wife every once in a while when the kids, they're in their 30s now, but if they ever get in trouble, I remind her that they learn to walk by falling down. And
Right.
that's what we do. That's not just our species, but all species that are capable of learning. They learn through
Right.
trial and error. They learn by making mistakes. And
Right.
so to me, uh, I, I actually rejoice in that. It's one of the
Mhm.
professional qualities, one of the few professional qualities I have that I'm actually proud of and happy about is I love being wrong. I love it. If the people who work for me, I tell them all the time, it's like a game. If they can catch me, in fact, my partner just caught, I wrote this paper and he found a typo and he was elated. He was so happy that he found this typo. And I go,
You made a mistake.
relax. Like, it's a typo. That doesn't count. That's a typo. But no, no, no. But yeah, and I think that's sort of the capacity to be able to assimilate those mistakes, to be able to learn from them.
Mhm.
One of the qualities I always look for in people when I hire them is autodidacticism, right? This ability to self-learn, to teach
Right.
yourself. And that to me is the quintessence of autodidacticism, is this ability, this willingness to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. No one
Mm.
ever does something right away and does it perfectly. And by the way, um, think to yourself, and I challenge anyone who's listening, think about the greatest accomplishment of your entire life, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Was it easy? Of course
No.
not, right?
No.
That's what made it an accomplishment.
Right.
That's what gives us joy. What gives us joy is that capacity for failure, is that
Right.
we strive and we strive again valiantly and we keep trying. So going back to your simple question, oh my God, how many mistakes have I made? One of my favorite mistakes I made that I think is hysterical. I had an assistant working for me, with me, as she reminded me, and I had to remind myself because of this incident. And so I was going to this meeting, and I'm, sort of the forgetful professor, the
Right.
absent-minded professor. And so I go to this meeting, and she usually would put a file for what I needed into my little portfolio. And so I get to the meeting, and of course, it's not there. Like, oh, I'm mortified, right? And I don't have the things, and so I have to wing it. So I came back to the office, and I never lose my temper. I never get angry, but I was miffed, and I told
Right.
her, and I won't use her name, but we'll call her Jane. Jane,
Right.
I got to the meeting, and I didn't have this thing in my bag. And
Right.
she said to me, well, maybe you should check your bag before you left the office. So I was like, ah. So I said, well, maybe
Uh,
you should, do your job. I snapped back
oh.
at her. And she said, is that what you want? And I said, yeah, just do your job. And she said, fine, I'll just do my job. And that's all she did for 3 weeks. She just did
Oh.
it. She didn't do anything that wasn't her job. And my life was like miserable. So by 3 weeks, I was like, oh God, please don't do your job anymore. Please save my life and
Oh
doing is the
no.
most what I need you to do. And so, yeah, it's, and that's, yeah, it goes to, this is a little bit of a departure, but my son, when he was getting into his first real relationship back when he was like
Uh-huh.
18 years old, he told me, okay, Dad, tell me everything you know about women. And I told him, okay, I know 3 things. And thing one, which had to do with this, was apologize when you're wrong, even when you're not. And
Right.
thing two was bring flowers for no reason at all. And thing three was, I have no idea, but spend the rest of your life trying to figure it out. And I have since come to learn that's a great philosophy also for your customers and for the people who work
Right.
with you and work for you, right? Just
Right.
apologize. Just, who cares if you're wrong, they're wrong. What's the difference? Just
Right.
apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry, whatever. And not a fake apology. I'm so sorry that your feelings were hurt, that I called you a schmuck, no, just genuinely apologize. And then, bring flowers for no reason at all. Show people you give a damn, show people you
Right.
appreciate them, show
Right.
them that, that you value them. And the third thing is truly, you'll never figure it all out, but that you make that effort of trying to figure those things out to be able to make people happier, to engage people. That's, I've been blessed with a great uh, 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 tenure of the people who work with me and for me in my organizations and my team. And I think that's a big part of it because they know I value them as human beings and I
Right.
really do give a damn.
And that's what it's all about, right? At
I
the end
think
of the day.
so.
Right. Right. So with that said, then, what do you think? your legacy will be?
Oh.
I know it's a hard one.
Yeah, I don't know. I've actually thought about that lately, and I usually am the one on the other side of the table having that conversation,
Right.
and I'm the one who tells people, you can't take it with you, but you can leave things behind, and
Right.
really that is what you leave behind as a legacy.
Hmm.
And if I were to leave one, I think it would be that I helped some people, and I was kind, and I tried my best. I mean,
Right.
that's it. It's beyond that. I have no illusions that I'll, have changed the world, that the world will be significantly different as a consequence of my contributions, but hopefully I'll have improved a couple of people's lives along the way, and some people will have had a better life because of something I did, said, or shared with them. So
Right. But you
modest
have you.
goals.
But you have you were mentioning in our previous conversation that that you're helping the people in military and army and
Yeah, but I
retired
don't know
people.
that. Uh, to me, there's almost this selfishness of expecting that to be a legacy. It's
Right.
the same as my wife and I will never ever talk about charities and what we
Right.
give to charities. Which,
Right.
by the way, I mean, I'll tell you, we have only one charity we give to, which is St. Jude's, and we give uh, very generously. But
Right.
we don't talk about the number, and we don't have any other charities
Mhm.
because to me then it's not about that, and it's the same
Right.
with building a legacy. It's not up
Right.
to me. It'll be
Right.
up to me to do what I can, and if that has made a positive impact and I'm remembered, great. What I want more than anything else, sounding
Mhm.
horribly selfish, is I heard this. I think it's an Irish proverb. I forget. It's a proverb from somewhere, but
Mhm.
that you die twice. Once
Mhm.
when you leave this physical plane, and once the last time someone says your name. And I'm hoping my
Wow.
grandchildren will remember me, and that's
Oh,
really it.
oh, that's sweet. And what do you think? What's one or maybe two things that we can take away from your experiences? I mean, something that you want to share that could help others.
You're infinitely more capable than you think you are. You know, I wrote an article a little while back on, well, I wrote two articles. Oh, I wrote a lot of articles, but I wrote this one article, and in it I was giving advice to data scientists, to new data scientists, and it was a bunch of goofy things. They were just little aphorisms. One of them was, "Be more like Leonard and less like Sheldon," right? So stupid things like that. But one of them was one of the final ones, if not the final one, was about imposter syndrome. And I talked about how you're really better than you think you are, and don't let anyone make you think otherwise. And it got such a response to that one that I published another article, and I published both of these on LinkedIn. Anyone's free to, and by the way, connect with me. I'm not, that impressed with myself. I'll be happy to connect to anybody and continue the conversation. And I post pretty regularly, sharing my thoughts into the ether. But I don't know if anyone's listening, but I like talking. I like to write anyway. But and so I wrote this second article about imposter syndrome, and it really resonated with a lot of people because I think for so many of us, we tend to fall prey to that. There's a phenomenon in psychology known as the Dunning-Kruger effect,
Okay.
and in essence, I mean, the short version is, those really incompetent, stupid people in the world who think they tend to think they're brilliant, and vice
Mhm.
versa, right? So,
Right.
you have some people who think they are a very stable genius, and not so much. And then you have, some people who really are geniuses, or at least at what they do, and they're always doubting themselves. Oh, am I a
Right.
fraud? Am I a phony? What if they find out? What if they figure it out? When I went to graduate school, the guy who ran the program, Dr. Joel Lefkowitz, who he just stepped down from running the program, but I just ran into him for the first time in years, a couple of years ago, in an incredible act of kindness. Our first day of grad school, he walks into the room and there's cohort, there's a couple of us sitting there, and we're all like, oh my, how'd they pick me? What when they find out, when they figure out why they picked me for grad school? And he walked in and without any preamble, he said, I know what you're all saying to yourself, and you're wrong. You're all smart enough. You're all good enough. You're all supposed to be here. And it was such an act of kindness. And it kind of made me realize, not only did it make me feel better, but it also made me realize that I wasn't the only one who was feeling that way, you know?
Right,
And
right.
I think so many of us are. And so what I say is, you know, I mean, you heard my resume. The hell did I know about those things? I didn't. And it's not fake it till you make it. It's fake it while you make it. You know,
Right.
get in there and just tell yourself, you know what, I'm smart, or I'm a good quick learner, or I'm a hard worker. Whatever you got to tell yourself.
Right.
And you know, it's if someone else can do it, then if I really want to do it, then I can do it too. And
Right.
anyone who's watching, I would tell you, you're right. You know, if you think you can do it, if you convince yourself you can do it, you can do it. And there's nothing beyond your grasp. You know, the final point to that, I mentioned that we were poor as church mice when we started. The reason we were financially successful was my wife. I got a solicitation. I was getting solicited by all the high IQ societies for a while, by, you know, Mensa and Pantheon and all those. And one
Oh,
of them
wow.
sends me this thing, and it said, if you're so damn smart, how come you're not rich? And my wife is like infuriated when she sees it. We never fight really, but she throws it on the table in front of me and says, yeah, if you're so damn smart, how come we're not rich? So I said, oh, you want to be rich? Fine. And so I got us rich, and I'm thinking it out. I'm thinking, well, and what I told myself was, look, there are like dumb people who are really rich. And if dumb people can be really rich, you got to be able to figure this out. And so
Right.
I actually went on from there. I taught a grad course, a semester-long grad course that I handpicked a bunch of people for. We had like a dozen people, and I taught the science and the psychology of success. And lo and behold, 11 of the 12 people, you know, did very well for themselves within a year of graduating.
Wow.
And this is all learnable. It's all accessible. It's things you
Right.
can figure out. The problem is most of us are looking for a shortcut. We're looking
Right.
for a cheat. We're not willing to do the hard work. We're not willing to roll
Mhm.
up our sleeves. We're not willing to put in the effort. And we believe in ourselves only superficially, but not at a
Right.
deep level. And we have to
Right.
deeply believe in what we want to do. You know, my final point, I'm sorry, I think I said that once. One of my mentors once told me, you want to know the secret of getting anything you want in life? And it's really as simple as this. And it turns out he was right. And he said, number one is figure out what it is you want,
Right.
really what you want. And
Mhm.
you need to be able to articulate it exactly, precisely. This is exactly what I want. So number
Right.
one, figure out what you want. Number two, figure out what it costs.
Mhm.
And what it costs isn't necessarily the money, it's the sweat, it's the, you know, what the learning is, the resources, all of this. So figure out what it is you want. Number two is figure out what it costs. And number three, pay that price. That's
Right.
it. That's it. And that's really,
Right.
it turns out, what do you want? Do you want to be a physicist? Do you want to have a black belt? Do you want to, you know, run with the bulls in Pamplona? It doesn't matter. Figure
Right.
out exactly what it is, find out what it costs to be able to do it, and pay that price. And if you're not willing to pay that price, that's okay. But
Mhm.
admit it to yourself and say to yourself, then you're not failing. You're just not going to do it. You're just not going to expend the effort to try to do that.
Right.
And you do that, and you can't help but to be successful.
Right. That's wonderful. I really loved that last piece. Gives you something to think about, you know. What do I really want, you know?
Well, what do you want? That's right. Exactly. That's usually how I start the conversation. People say, what does JT stand for? And I say, JT stands for truth, justice, and the eradication of ignorance. But what do you stand for?
I like that.
There you go.
That's smart. Any other last words, JT?
No, I think the only last words I'd have is, you know, whatever your philosophical, religious, life belief system is, whether you believe in a heaven and a hell, in a bardo, in reincarnation, whatever you believe, you have to believe this is the only life we get, or at least this one. We only get to live it once. Even if you believe in multiple universes, it ain't you. It's another incarnation of you, a doppelganger that's living that other life. So live it. You know,
Right.
everybody dies eventually, but not everybody really lives.
Right.
And you only go around once on this little merry-go-round of ours.
Right.
Enjoy the hell out of it. Grab the brass ring, have fun, come sliding into home, be bloody and a mess, and just saying, wow. My goal is, well, I'm probably going to be cremated, but if I was in a coffin, I would want people to walk in and say, oh my God, he looks terrible. I do not want to look great there, man. I want to just drag it. Yeah, I want to
Drag
just,
as far as you can.
yep, get every out, suck the marrow out of life. That to me is the secret of a great
Oh,
life well lived.
wow. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for this lovely talk. I think by far the most entertaining
I may not be bright,
podcast.
but man, am I entertaining. That's my secret.
That's it, right?
There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much,
Thanks for
JT.
having me.
Thank you for being on our show today. And hopefully maybe sometime soon we can do another one because I really enjoyed this.
I'll look forward to it. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.